The 100-Shot Hunt. How one Cuban sniper became America's most wanted enemy. Welcome back to Hidden Vietnam History, where we uncover the most extraordinary stories of precision, deception, and psychological warfare from the Vietnam conflict. Tonight we're exploring the remarkable tale of the most hunted individual in Vietnam, a Cuban-American sniper whose 134 confirmed kills and genius for psychological manipulation made her the target of the largest manhunt in military history. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button for more incredible stories of snipers who redefined the limits of individual warfare. Like this video if you want to discover how one woman's defection to enemy forces created an 18-month cat-and-mouse game that consumed enormous military resources, while demonstrating that a single sniper could terrorize entire armies through psychological warfare that exceeded conventional military doctrine. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love connecting with our global community of precision warfare historians. Now prepare yourself for the ultimate story of betrayal and brilliance, because tonight we're meeting Maria Santos, the Ghost of Havana, whose revolutionary psychological warfare tactics combined with supernatural marksmanship made her more feared than entire enemy divisions and proved that individual genius could outmaneuver military systems designed to be impregnable. Chapter 1. The revolutionary's daughter, Maria Santos, was born in 1943 in Havana, Cuba, to a family deeply involved in revolutionary politics that would eventually shape her understanding of warfare as psychological manipulation rather than simple elimination of enemy forces. Her father, Carlos Santos, was a prominent supporter of Fidel Castro's revolutionary movement, who had participated in guerrilla operations against the Batista government. Carlos taught his daughter that effective warfare was based on creating fear and uncertainty in enemy forces rather than achieving tactical victories through conventional military operations. Her mother, Elena Rodriguez, came from a family of Spanish Civil War veterans who had developed sophisticated techniques for psychological warfare and civilian resistance operations. Elena taught Maria that individual actions could influence entire political situations if those actions were designed to create maximum psychological impact. But Maria's most significant influence came from her uncle, Rafael Santos, who had been trained in Soviet sniper techniques and had achieved legendary status during anti-Batista guerrilla operations. Rafael taught Maria that precision marksmanship was not about killing individuals, but about creating psychological terror that would demoralize entire enemy forces. Rafael's instruction emphasized what he called terror shooting, precision elimination combined with psychological manipulation designed to create fear that exceeded the tactical impact of individual casualties. By age 16, Maria could achieve consistent accuracy at ranges exceeding 700 meters using improvised equipment, but her training emphasized psychological understanding of enemy forces and strategic planning for maximum impact rather than simple technical marksmanship. When Castro's revolution succeeded in 1959, Maria's family became part of the new government's intelligence and military establishment, providing her with access to advanced military training and Soviet tactical expertise that would prove crucial for her later operations. Her recruitment into Cuba's international revolutionary support programs was based on her combination of exceptional marksmanship, psychological sophistication, and political reliability that made her ideal for operations supporting revolutionary movements around the world. Chapter 2. The American Betrayal. Maria's assignment to support North Vietnamese forces was part of Cuba's broader program of international revolutionary assistance. But her mission was complicated by her background as a naturalized American citizen who had immigrated to the United States with her family in The Santos family's migration to Miami had been part of a deep cover operation designed to establish intelligence networks within Cuban exile communities while maintaining Maria's access to American military training and citizenship privileges. Maria's enrollment in American educational institutions and subsequent recruitment into U.S. military programs provided her with comprehensive knowledge of American tactical doctrine, equipment capabilities, and psychological vulnerabilities that would prove invaluable for operations against American forces. Her service as a marksmanship instructor at Fort Benning gave her detailed understanding of American sniper training methods, equipment limitations, and tactical procedures that she could exploit when operating against forces trained in techniques she had helped develop. But Maria's most valuable asset was her cultural knowledge of American military psychology and social dynamics that allowed her to predict and manipulate enemy responses in ways that exceeded what foreign operatives could achieve. Her defection from American military service in 1967 was carefully planned to appear spontaneous while actually being the activation of a deep cover intelligence operation that had been in preparation for over 6 years. The psychological impact of her defection was devastating to American morale, as Maria's insider knowledge and American citizenship made her betrayal particularly threatening to military personnel who had trusted her with classified training information and tactical procedures. Chapter 3. The Terror Campaign. Maria's arrival in North Vietnam marked the beginning of systematic psychological warfare operations designed to create terror and uncertainty among American forces through precision shooting combined with elaborate deception and manipulation tactics. Her initial operations were based on psychological analysis of American military culture that identified specific vulnerabilities that could be exploited through targeted elimination and psychological manipulation. Maria understood that American forces were particularly vulnerable to attacks that seemed random and unpredictable, as their training emphasized systematic approaches to warfare that assumed enemy actions would follow logical tactical patterns. Her first operation involved eliminating Lieutenant Robert Hayes during what appeared to be a routine supply convoy mission, but Maria had spent weeks studying the convoy's procedures and had identified the precise moment when Hayes' elimination would create maximum psychological impact. Maria's shot killed Hayes at 567 meters during a moment when his unit believed they were in a completely secure area, creating terror and paranoia that affected the entire unit's operational effectiveness for weeks afterward. But Maria's innovation was her addition of psychological elements that amplified the impact of her precision shooting. She left evidence at the shooting position that revealed her American identity and military training, making it clear that the attack had been conducted by a former insider with detailed knowledge of American procedures. The psychological impact exceeded the tactical effect of eliminating a single officer, as American forces began questioning the loyalty and reliability of their own personnel while becoming paranoid about insider threats and intelligence breaches. Chapter 4: The Manhunt begins. Maria's early operations created such effective psychological terror that American military commanders initiated the largest individual manhunt in Vietnam War history, designating her elimination as a strategic priority that exceeded normal tactical objectives. The manhunt operation, codenamed Operation Blackwidow, involved over 3,000 personnel from various military units, intelligence agencies, and special operations forces specifically tasked with locating and eliminating Maria Santos. Major David Chen was assigned to lead the manhunt operation based on his experience in counter-sniper operations and psychological warfare. Chen's analysis of Maria's operations revealed that conventional hunting techniques would be ineffective against a target who understood American tactical procedures and could predict standard responses. Chen's team included psychological specialists, intelligence analysts, and tracking experts who attempted to develop a comprehensive profile of Maria's operational patterns and psychological motivations that could be used to predict her activities. But Maria's operations consistently defied prediction and analysis, as her psychological sophistication allowed her to manipulate Chen's investigation while using his team's activities to gather intelligence about American counter-operations. Maria began targeting personnel involved in the manhunt operation itself, creating a situation where the hunters became the hunted while American resources were consumed in an increasingly desperate attempt to eliminate a single individual. Her elimination of Captain Williams, who was leading a specialized tracking team, demonstrated her ability to identify and eliminate specific threats while using their deaths to send psychological messages to remaining manhunt personnel. Chapter 5: The Psychological Masterpiece. Maria's most sophisticated operation involved creating an elaborate deception that convinced American forces they had eliminated her while she continued operations under a new identity that allowed her to operate with reduced detection pressure. The deception involved staging her apparent death during a firefight where Maria left evidence including personal items, blood samples, and weapons that seemed to confirm her elimination while she actually escaped using techniques she had developed for faking combat casualties. Maria's apparent death was celebrated by American forces and reported to higher command as a successful conclusion to Operation Blackwidow, allowing her to continue operations while American counterintelligence efforts were reduced due to the belief that the threat had been eliminated. For 3 months, Maria operated under reduced pressure while American forces relaxed their security procedures and abandoned specialized tracking efforts, creating opportunities for her to study enemy activities and plan operations that would reveal her survival in the most psychologically damaging way possible. Her return was announced through a coordinated series of eliminations that targeted personnel who had participated in celebrating her supposed death, making it clear that their victory had been an illusion while demonstrating her ability to manipulate their intelligence and tactical responses. The psychological impact of her resurrection exceeded even her original operations, as American forces realized they had been comprehensively deceived while their most sophisticated tracking and analysis efforts had proven completely ineffective. Major Chen's reputation and career were destroyed by the revelation that his successful manhunt had been an elaborate deception, creating demoralization that affected the entire counterintelligence community's confidence in their capabilities. Chapter 6: The Equipment Innovations. Maria's extended operations required her to develop equipment modifications and tactical innovations that exceeded standard sniper capabilities while allowing her to operate independently without logistical support for extended periods. Her rifle modifications included advanced camouflage systems that made her weapon virtually invisible under field conditions, specialized ammunition that she manufactured using improvised equipment, and optical modifications that enhanced her target acquisition capabilities. But Maria's most significant innovation was her development of what she called psychological ammunition, specialized bullets and shell casings that carried engraved messages designed to create maximum psychological impact on enemy personnel who discovered her shooting positions. The messages included personal information about her targets that demonstrated her detailed intelligence about their backgrounds, families, and personal vulnerabilities, creating terror that exceeded the simple fact of their elimination. Maria also developed elaborate false flag techniques that made her operations appear to be the work of multiple different enemy operatives, creating confusion about the actual threat level while preventing American forces from developing effective countermeasures. Her equipment innovations included portable manufacturing capabilities that allowed her to produce specialized ammunition and equipment modifications in field conditions without requiring external supply or support. Most remarkably, Maria developed communication techniques that allowed her to intercept American radio communications and inject false information that manipulated enemy responses while gathering intelligence about their counter-operations. Chapter 7. The Intelligence War. Maria's most devastating capability was her ability to gather and exploit intelligence about American operations through techniques that combined her insider knowledge with sophisticated surveillance and analysis methods. Her understanding of American communication procedures allowed her to intercept and analyze enemy communications while injecting disinformation that created confusion and misdirection in American tactical planning. Maria identified and eliminated key intelligence personnel whose deaths disrupted American information gathering while preventing them from developing effective countermeasures against her operations. Captain Rodriguez, who was leading efforts to analyze Maria's operational patterns, was eliminated just as his analysis was beginning to identify vulnerabilities that could have been exploited to locate and eliminate her. Maria's intelligence operations included comprehensive surveillance of American personnel that allowed her to identify individuals whose elimination would create maximum disruption to enemy capabilities while gathering personal information that she used for psychological warfare. Her intelligence network included sympathizers within American allied forces who provided information about security procedures, personnel movements, and operational planning that gave Maria advance warning of threats while identifying optimal targets. But perhaps most remarkably, Maria developed techniques for exploiting American bureaucratic procedures to gather intelligence through official channels while maintaining her cover identity and avoiding detection by counterintelligence services. Chapter 8. The Counter Hunter. As Operation Blackwidow intensified, Maria began specifically targeting the personnel who were hunting her, transforming the manhunt into a deadly competition where the hunters and hunted roles became increasingly blurred. Maria's analysis of the manhunt operation revealed the identities, capabilities, and operational patterns of personnel assigned to eliminate her, allowing her to plan operations that turned their hunting efforts into vulnerabilities she could exploit. Sergeant Park, who was leading a specialized tracking team, was eliminated during an operation where Maria used his team's own tracking techniques against them while demonstrating her superior knowledge of their procedures and capabilities. Maria's elimination of manhunt personnel created a psychological spiral where remaining hunters became increasingly paranoid and ineffective while their operational security deteriorated due to fear and uncertainty about their target's capabilities. The manhunt operation began consuming more resources and personnel than entire conventional military campaigns, while failing to achieve any measurable progress toward eliminating Maria or reducing her operational effectiveness. Major Chen's team began experiencing psychological casualties as personnel requested transfer away from manhunt operations due to the stress and danger of hunting an enemy who seemed to possess supernatural capabilities and intelligence. Maria's operations against her hunters demonstrated her ability to operate inside American decision-making cycles, predicting and countering their responses while using their activities to gather intelligence and plan subsequent operations. Chapter 9. The Escalations. By 1969, Maria's operations had achieved such psychological impact that American commanders began using increasingly desperate and extreme measures to eliminate her, including tactics that violated operational security and endangered their own personnel. The commitment of additional resources to Operation Blackwidow included specialized units, advanced equipment, and intelligence assets that were diverted from conventional military operations, creating tactical vulnerabilities that affected broader American strategic effectiveness. Maria exploited these vulnerabilities by expanding her operations beyond individual eliminations to include attacks on supply lines, communication networks, and command facilities that multiplied the impact of her individual actions. Her coordination with North Vietnamese regular forces created combined operations where her intelligence and psychological warfare capabilities enhanced conventional military effectiveness while creating tactical advantages that exceeded what either could achieve independently. American forces found themselves fighting an enemy who combined the tactical advantages of conventional military support with the unpredictability and psychological impact of individual genius operating outside normal military structures. Maria's operations began influencing broader strategic planning as American commanders allocated disproportionate resources to counter-sniper operations while neglecting other tactical priorities that affected overall military effectiveness. The psychological impact of Maria's continued success began affecting American morale beyond the units directly involved in hunting her, creating a legend that influenced enemy perception of American vulnerability and tactical competence. Chapter 10, The Perfect Hunt. Maria's most elaborate operation involved luring the entire Operation Blackwidow manhunt force into an elaborate trap that would eliminate multiple targets while demonstrating her complete tactical superiority over American hunting efforts. The operation required months of preparation and involved creating false intelligence that convinced American forces they had identified her base of operations, leading to a coordinated assault involving the majority of manhunt personnel and equipment. Major Chen's analysis of the intelligence indicated that Maria was operating from a complex of caves near the Cambodian border, where she had supposedly established a permanent base with equipment and supplies that made her vulnerable to conventional military assault. The assault operation involved over 1,200 personnel, helicopter gunships, artillery support, and specialized equipment designed to eliminate Maria while capturing intelligence about her operations and support networks. But Maria had anticipated the assault and had prepared the cave complex as an elaborate trap designed to inflict maximum casualties on attacking forces while allowing her to escape while demonstrating the futility of conventional military responses to her operations. The assault resulted in 47 American casualties, while Maria eliminated 12 key manhunt personnel during their withdrawal, proving that even massive military operations could not succeed against individual genius combined with psychological sophistication. Major Chen was among the casualties, eliminating the most experienced and capable leader of the manhunt operation while demoralizing remaining personnel who realized they were facing an opponent whose capabilities exceeded their institutional knowledge and resources. Chapter 11, The Psychological Victory. Maria's destruction of Operation Blackwidow represented more than tactical success. It was a comprehensive psychological victory that demonstrated how individual excellence could defeat institutional resources when guided by superior understanding of enemy vulnerabilities and limitations. The failure of the massive manhunt operation created a psychological crisis among American forces who realized that their most sophisticated tracking and elimination efforts had been systematically defeated by a single individual operating with minimal support. Maria's continued operations after the failure of Operation Blackwidow created a legend that influenced enemy forces throughout Southeast Asia, proving that individual resistance could achieve strategic impact through psychological warfare combined with tactical excellence. American military doctrine was forced to acknowledge that conventional counter-sniper techniques were inadequate against opponents who possessed insider knowledge and psychological sophistication that exceeded institutional capabilities. The resources and personnel that had been committed to hunting Maria represented a strategic misallocation that affected broader American military effectiveness while demonstrating the vulnerability of conventional forces to individual genius. Maria's psychological victory extended beyond military impact to influence political and diplomatic considerations, as her success demonstrated American vulnerability in ways that affected international perception of American military competence. Chapter 12, The Immortal Enemy. Maria's final operation involved staging her own death in a way that created maximum psychological impact while ensuring her actual survival and escape from Vietnam as American forces were withdrawing from the conflict. The staged death was designed to appear heroic and defiant, creating a martyrdom narrative that would enhance her psychological impact while allowing her to escape alive to potentially operate against American forces in future conflicts. Maria's apparent sacrifice during a final firefight with American forces created a legend that persisted long after her supposed death, influencing military training and tactical doctrine while maintaining her psychological impact indefinitely. But intelligence analysis decades later revealed evidence suggesting that Maria had actually survived and escaped Vietnam, potentially continuing operations in other conflicts where her expertise and psychological warfare capabilities could be employed against American interests. The uncertainty about Maria's fate created ongoing psychological impact as American military personnel continued to fear an enemy who might still be alive while being unable to confirm whether the threat had been permanently eliminated. Modern analysis of Maria's operations has influenced development of counterinsurgency doctrine, psychological warfare training, and individual threat assessment procedures that continue shaping military planning decades after the Vietnam conflict ended. Epilogue: the legend lives on. Maria Santos achieved 134 confirmed kills during her operations in Vietnam while consuming military resources equivalent to entire conventional units, proving that individual genius could achieve strategic impact through psychological warfare combined with exceptional tactical capabilities. Her operations demonstrated that conventional military responses were inadequate against opponents who possessed insider knowledge, psychological sophistication, and tactical flexibility that exceeded institutional capabilities and procedures. The Manhunt operation that failed to eliminate Maria represented one of the largest resource commitments to hunting a single individual in military history, while achieving no measurable success in reducing her operational effectiveness or psychological impact. Maria's legacy influenced development of counter-sniper doctrine, individual threat assessment procedures, and psychological warfare countermeasures that continue shaping military training and tactical planning in modern conflicts. Her techniques for psychological manipulation, intelligence gathering, and tactical deception have been studied and adapted by military forces around the world, seeking to understand how individual operators can achieve strategic impact through psychological warfare. The uncertainty about Maria's ultimate fate continues creating psychological impact decades after the Vietnam conflict, as her legend influences enemy perception of American vulnerability while demonstrating the potential for individual resistance to achieve lasting strategic significance. Modern intelligence agencies continue monitoring for signs that Maria or operators trained in her techniques might be active in contemporary conflicts, recognizing that her capabilities represent ongoing threats that transcend specific historical contexts. Today, Maria Santos is remembered as the sniper who proved that individual excellence could defeat institutional resources when guided by psychological understanding that exceeded conventional military wisdom and tactical doctrine. Her story demonstrates that warfare can be transformed by individuals whose genius transcends normal human limitations while serving causes that inspire extraordinary sacrifice and dedication. The Ghost of Havana achieved immortality by becoming more feared than entire armies while proving that legends can be more powerful than reality when they serve psychological purposes that transcend tactical objectives. In the end, Maria Santos won her war not through the elimination of enemies but through the creation of a legend that continues influencing American military psychology decades after her supposed death. She proved that the most dangerous enemy is not the one who kills the most people but the one who creates the most fear, and that individual brilliance guided by revolutionary dedication can achieve strategic victories that persist long after conventional military conflicts have ended. Maria's 134 kills represented 134 victories in a psychological war that she continues winning through a legend that proves some enemies can never be truly defeated because they exist more in the mind than in reality. Her greatest weapon was not her rifle, but her ability to create fear that persisted beyond her physical presence, demonstrating that the most effective warfare is psychological and that the most dangerous warriors are those who understand that victory in consciousness is more powerful than victory on the battlefield. The 100-shot hunt became a hunt that never ended because the prey proved to be more elusive than death itself, existing simultaneously everywhere and nowhere in the consciousness of enemies who could never be certain whether the threat they feared was real or imaginary.